Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order as United Mexican States. Last time we were together, our credit rating proved obviously the most exciting and eventful part of last video, totally. No, but actually, we're sending our friends to Washington, all our cabinet members, namely Farode, Ordaz, and Salinas Lozano. We're sending them all, or we're putting them in charge of the delegation over to the States. We'll see how it all ends up going. I'm not particularly optimistic it'll go especially well for any of them, which could potentially help some of the more potential dark horse candidates. We're also coming in ever closer to the end of the Legion training. So we'll see how that all ends up going. I'm hoping it's going to go well. Let's get to bat. But let's not worry about that. Let's check out Tabasco. Oh, looks at majority of the state culture in the state is Maya, a politically dominant Sereno minority. Interesting. Compared that to the majority culture is Sereno with a Maya indigenous minority. Alright, let's check out Tabasco. Villahermosa, Spanish for beautiful village, is the capital of the state of Tabasco. Originally named Villa Carmona, the city changed names 8 times in its long history. The city's historic center is filled with colonial-era buildings that combine Gothic and Moorish styles. Villahermosa has been invaded and occupied multiple times by foreign powers, revolutionaries, and rebels over the past century and a half. Nonetheless, the city has become known for its rapid economic growth as investors seek to tap into the city's natural resources. Sugar, tobacco, hardwood, alcohol, and cigars are the city's staples, but Villahermosa's beauty and rich pre-colonial history have made it a growing tourist attraction. We also have Oaxaca, which the majority culture is Indígena, comprised of a large amount of different indigenous groups from the Nahuas to the Mayans. Oaxaca, long occupied and long suffering, the valley of Oaxaca has seen itself subjected time and time again by tyrants of every type. Time and time again, they have resisted, hoping things would be different. It didn't change with Spanish. It didn't change with independence. Even their homegrown son of Benito Juarez couldn't change things after they beat the French, nor could the Magonista movement affect lasting change during the revolution. Oaxaca today is just another city in the Mexican South. More and more indigenous farmers come into the city every year, driven by the miserable conditions of the countryside. Once there, they crowd into the growing urban sprawl of unemployed people that spreads far outside the original city limits. As this population grows, the desire for land and liberty grows once again, and Oaxaca is prepared to struggle like they always have, to bravely face tyranny like their forefathers did. Well, there we go. I'll get the timer going right now. And we got some options here to check out. How's our unemployment doing overall? Not really liking how the unemployment is ticking up seemingly everywhere. Except Yucatan. Everyone's working in Yucatan. Alright, we have to go back here. The exact distribution of everything is a little confusing how that all works. So let's get some state industry. We don't need a George Horse campaign. We could sponsor some industry here, though. Oh yeah, let's sponsor some industry here, too. Get the Northeast going. Get it popping off. well. How are we doing foreign policy-wise? It's starting to come together. A friendly visit. Lopez Mateos looked carefully over the plans for the trip ahead. They were going to be heading north through the United States into Canada before looping back down to finish in D.C. That was for certain and had already been negotiated by their respective ambassadors and embassies. What was less certain was how Lopez Mateos planned on getting to Canada. Ordaz had put together 2 proposals of potential path and debated the merits of each back and forth until he couldn't stand hearing another word from the minister and dismissed him for the night. Yet he had to choose one by morning. The first was to head up along the western coast, starting from Sonora into Baja California. Here he could speak with the growing Mexican communities of California and get in touch with the people once more. Standing before a crowd of his constituents always made him feel more alive. Perhaps it was a perfect thing to uplift his spirits after the disastrous past few months. There would be press along that, and that brought risk, but if they could catch him in his element once again, it might bring him positive exposure he was looking for. The second route was to head up through Texas to visit Lyndon Johnson. Mateos had not spoken with Lyndon in quite some time, and if what he needed was a break, then a visit with an old friend may just be what he needed. Additionally, Johnson controlled much of the Texas's barrens, could be just the man he needed to strike a deal that would boost growth throughout the Northeast. Of course, the press might jump on this in evidence that he was trying to hide from the cameras. Mateos leaned forward against the desk, his chair creaking underneath him, as 2 possibilities rattled around his brain. After the chaos of the Aleutian crisis, there was only one choice that made sense. I'm gonna save here. I'm curious about both potential options. Well, it's time I visited an old friend. I think either proposal has its merits. Selena spoke carefully, waffling on the center in a way that was beating a grate on Mateos' nerves. He'd asked him here to advise this meeting, but he'd spent the last hour jumping back and forth between either proposal no end in sight. Perhaps if we reframe what these proposals meant, we can reassess, Ordaz suggested, breaking through with simmering anger. Mateos turned expectantly to listen to what Ordaz had to say. One option has been to waive a Laredo border heading into San Antonio. There is a large Mexican community living there, and you will play well for press here and the press there. Puts you where you are strongest, in front of a crowd talking with people. The first stop sets the tone for the entire trip. Puts you on a positive foot with the border. The second proposal is the Reynosa border, with the first stop being Corpus Christi and then on to Houston. It's a much smaller city with less opportunities for big gatherings to catch the headlines. However, it's a center of commerce, and particularly the petroleum industry. If you're wanting to make inroads with American industrials, I can't think of a better place to start than with Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi? Is that how you say it? I think it is. I was looking to see if it popped up, but not there it is. Mateos nodded along as Ordaz spoke, glad to have a new voice to listen to. But as he neared the end of his speech, and they were no closer to making a decision, Mateos felt his annoyance slowly rising back to the surface. So there are merits to both. That we have established. What I'm curious about is what I ought to do. What is better, San Antonio or Corpus Christi? Mateos watched Ordaz's expression and waited, the stoic gaze never changing as always, until Ordaz finally leaned forward with an answer. What do we want to do? Making connections with the industrials is more important. Next up, let's attract some American investment. Oh, Canada. So oft forgotten by Mexican politicians and businessmen, yet is our 3rd biggest trading partner beyond the U.S. and Canada. We must look to arrange a meeting with our Canadian counterparts to establish firm industrial, financial, and political ties. The foremost priorities gathering should be arranging a trade agreement. Lower tariffs would be a win-win for Lopez Mateos and their prime minister, for our port cities and theirs, for the countless factories and farms looking for new markets. Let the Canadian dollars flow. We got some new research to get working on. A little behind, especially on this one. We've been slacking. But we can catch up now. too early to get working on this, even with the boost. You know, I'll read this real quick, but I think I'm going to reload because I don't want Ordaz's boosted. And as you all know, Corpus Christi punches well above its weight in the petroleum sector. It would only make sense, seeing as it's so close to our country, that our industrialists find common ground and cooperate here. Thank you. As Lopez Mateos exits the stage onto the floor, he's met with applause from a small auditorium of oil executives and workers. Making his way to the table with the diplomatic team, the president eyes the catering on the side of the room. Burgers. Interesting choice, the president thought. Why not? As he sat down and dug into his meal, the president reflected on his experience in the small city. The visit to Corpus Christi had largely gone off without a hitch. He definitely made some leeway with the businessmen of the city. It would be a small but noticeable boost to the Mexican energy sector and cross-border trade, exactly what he had come here for. But with the masses of San Antonio, he did not exactly arrive here to applause the tens of thousands of Mexican Americans, though he avoided any of the potential controversy that would have come with such a visit, Alamo and all. I'm glad we came here, Mateo said to the table, upon which the team nodded. Sometimes something lighter is needed. The same cannot be said for Lopez Mateos' stomach, however. Without realizing it, he downed the entire burger, fries and all. Who made this? Turning the bright orange and brown bag around, the president reads out the name. Whataburger. Alright, let's load her back up. Probably, I'm not going to go through all of these, but it's good to get it all set up and established. I figured if I'm reloading it, I might as well check out and see if there's a other option. Alright, cheering crowds are the only medicine I need. How long do we have on the global conflicts? Foreign policy. Yeah, we don't even have time to get this going if we wanted to. So, feels bad. Some conference. Production. Okay, extra units. Let's get those civilian factories going. And then tech. And we're doing this one, so dope. The car pulled up beside some of the temporary housing set up for the migrant workers that came from all across northern Mexico, in the hopes of finding enough money to send back to their families across the border. The California sun was hot on the back of Lopez Mateos' neck as he stepped out, but what caught his attention was the scores of his countrymen seated around a collection of tables, eating and enjoying a break from their demanding work. In the corner of his eye, the press were stepping out of their own vehicles, having been hot on his heels the whole journey here. He stepped forward towards the workers, who were already beginning to turn and take an interest in the arrival of what all of them knew to be their president. Laborers and countrymen, Mateos began. He saw the press out of the corner of his eye, scribbling down the words that came next. I only wish for a moment of your time. Being up here in California makes one nostalgic for the company of his own people. Oh, is this the California one? Didn't mean for this one. I mean, I'll finish reading the event while I'm here, but being here in California makes one nostalgic for the company of his own people. He gave him a smile and was rewarded by many of them replying with filling greetings for the president. He sat down at last on one of the tables and generously accepted a plate of rice and greens and made a casual conversation with those seated. Casual, at least until one of the men across from him spoke up. Are you here to talk to them about our conditions? The man said, skin tanned from hundreds of hours beneath the grueling California sun. We work for so little pay, and because we're not from here, they think they can treat us worse. There must be something you can do. Mateos' heart dropped. He was planning on meeting with some American businessmen in San Diego to set up some lucrative investment deals. If he came to America waving the red flag, they might not be so willing to give him what he needed. At the same time, he could see the others nodding along with what the man was saying. Could he really abandon his people to the excesses of American capitalism? Yes. Yes, he can. He absolutely can. Time that I visited an old friend. Pause the timer there, so we'll get a little extra bit of time in this video. I'm wasting your time. I'm wasting your time a little bit. All right, putting you in front of a crowd is essential. Let's get. Okay, that decreases or does. That's probably okay. And this, boys and girls, Lopez Mateos points to the center of a chalk drawn Mexico on the blackboard, is Mexico City, where my friends and I spend most of our time carrying out the duties of our state. I hope you come and visit when you grow up. The city is beautiful. Lopez Mateos said his goodbye to the third grade classroom, then walks out with his team. South San Antonio was majority Mexican American, so Lopez Mateos felt mostly at home among the people here. With speeches at a community center, stops at local restaurants, the president began to feel to genuinely enjoy his stay in the Lone Star State, feeling more connected to the growing diaspora. As they exit on the streets, however, history got in the way. Standing on several pickup truck beds, a group of Texans gather in the parking lot across the street. "Remember the Alamo," their signs read, accompanied by a Lone Star flag. "Get the hell out of our country, Japanese puppet." The chants grew louder as a dozen more people joined them, following the Mexican convoy. "They obviously aren't from the neighborhoods," Mateos quips, though his tolerance for them deteriorates rapidly. The next morning before leaving, Lopez Mateos walks in on Ordaz, reading in the morning. Mexican president met with patriot opposition, runs away like a coward. Ordaz, we did not account for this. Did we not account for this when making the itinerary? That was in a mostly Hispanic neighborhood, too. Your Excellency, I can assure you our precautions were taken, though Americans can be unpredictable. Lopez Mateos did not confront Ordaz right there on the trip, though walked out visibly displeased. You cannot undo history. Somehow it was more fitting for one of the most powerful men in America to be from its biggest state. He's not from Alaska. Semantics. And for him to live on a cattle ranch passed down from his ancestors who arrived back when it was indisputably part of Mexico. In other words, perhaps it would still be, but Lopez Mateos knew that this man would have found his way to the top of whatever nation he was in. Senate Majority Leader Lyndon Johnson was certainly aiming to make his guests feel welcome. The bands and dancers, the banners in the color guard, and of course, the food. Chicken, pork, corn, biscuits. Lopez Mateos knew visiting the LBJ ranch would entail a huge feast. But now, as they walked along the gravel road, observing the cows in the distance, they could turn away from festivity and towards more pressing matters. So it's the chamazal again, asked Johnson, scoffing. El Paso wants to settle it. Texas wants to settle it. Hell, I wanted to settle it back in the 50s, but Ike wouldn't listen to me. But now things are changing, Lopez Mateos said. Latin America is growing ever more important in world affairs, and the chamazal is becoming quite the sore spot. An example of American imperialism, as some may say, the sole instance where the United States refused to abide by international arbitration. Now I just need your help in getting a compromise passed through the Senate. And you want me to get Nixon on board. I'm not on good terms with him at the moment. Hell, Jack and his snot-nosed brother are on board. Lopez Mateos assured. I talked to Vice President Kennedy about this in an informal conversation, and he is extremely interested in the prospects of improving the image of America abroad and building a strong relationship. All right, I'll do what I can. Diana Phoenix, thank you for the follow. How are you doing? I'm alright, how are you? Oh, here we go. This little listening tour is all well and good, but you can't go listening to the likes of Enriquez. I forgot what happened in 52. The radical ran against us. Against us! I like what you're doing in Tabasco. Got a real knack for building infrastructure, making good paying jobs for the little guy. Actually getting stuff done for the Hitos. Don't suppose you extend this road? Yeah, here on the map, up to the border. Some villagers on our side are still living like it's the Porfiriato, and we don't have your oil money. What a speech, Governor Madrazo. What a speech. You truly have a gift. If I may offer a suggestion, though, I think your points on the development of the cacao industry missed the mark. We should be stressing the provisions of cheap corn and grain so that every Mexican can have a full belly. Not to mention the need for deep reforms of CNC itself. You don't understand the youth, and the youth... You understand the youth, excuse me, and the youth understand you, Madrazo. I don't like how you do it, I don't know how you do it, to be frank. Most prefer listening to that gringo rock and roll racket to hearing what we fought for in the revolution. How come they listen to you? You spoke well via Hitos, but the real issue is that we're not enforcing Article 123. The future of the country is an industrial one, and we must ensure that a future for our working classes. I like your points against foreign domination, though. Perhaps tariffs are the answer? The left speaks in many voices, but they all speak well of Madrazo. Well, there we go. We're getting some boosts to that. It's only low now. Oh, I have a hectic excursion. Is this a bot? You're watching without audio, and you're saying how the stream, asking how the stream's going. Okay. I mean, my stream's going well if you're actually a real person right now. Hectic excursion. Oh, what a mess that was. Will our migrants and the American population ever get along? It seems like not even my supposed charisma can bridge the gap for a moment, let alone the United States government. Yankees chest beating along the border, relations in turmoil. Who planned this trip anyway? Oh, we lost an opportunity. Okay, so... what do we have here? Sisterhood successes. Oh, we don't have anything there. Hey, Epic Historian. I'm alright. How have you been? The golden glow of dawn's light steadily fought against an overwhelming darkness over the Sierra Madre Occidental, casting reflections of heaven's vast glow over the mountains below. In Dolores, however, the only gold that was generated by solar reflection. There was almost no wealth to speak of. Yet the excavation of this potential wealth was antithetical to the continued existence of the village, whose lands were gifted to it in perpetuity. But there are ways of dealing with that. Angel and his compatriots approached the barren heap of dirt, the third such town this week. In a sense, he considered himself a traveling salesman for ore, lumber, cattle, whatever else his clients required. Angel or Angel? I forget. G-E and G-I are pronounced different from G-A-G-O-G-U. I think it's Angel. I'm going with that. Angel could, with time, acquire them some prime real estate free of charge, free people, free of problems. And resolve mystery among thousands of Bon Rural's books, perhaps, but not one anyone would care to look at too thoroughly. In places where people already live so close to the edge, little effort will be required to send them packing to some place more useful, never to return. As such, he and his men were rather surprised to find a large crowd standing in front of the village entrance. Those in the rear held banners stating General Union of Mexican Workers and Peasants, as well as a handful of trite slogans. Those in the front, however, screamed curses at Angel's men. Held hatchets, hammers, and other private weapons. He had a shotgun, but only a couple of shells, more for intimidation than a serious fight. He raised it anyway, but they did not back down. After a while, He gave a look to his men, and they backed away slowly. They had places to be and money to make elsewhere, but they'd be back. What are your thoughts on the update? And which path are you planning on doing? Update so far. I like it. I know it's going to be a little sparse on the content-wise, but the content that's here is pretty solid. It seems pretty glitch-free, relatively, from what I can tell. What path am I going? I'm going with the leftist and nationalist path right now, because it seems the most difficult one to get, and so I'm the most curious to see if I can get that. I'm not massively planning towards it. Conspiracy. The ready mix factory was not built to hold 5 men, yet let alone 5 planned to assassinate the Generalissimo of the Dominican Republic. The tight quarters were exacerbated by the crate protruding over the top of Tony Imbert's desk, stuffed with brim of dynamite and military surplus from World War II that he stockpiled for the June 14th movement. The 3 M14 rifles the FBI had provided lay to the crate's side, barrels almost jabbing into Amadito's stomach. A briefcase of $12,000, give or take, a Benjamin, sat in Imbert's chair, awaiting a plan. Salvador whistled. Whew! Enough dynamite here to blow up the goat and the whole stage he's got ready in Mocha. A moment of silence before De La Maza answered. That's not enough. Blackie Trujillo and Amphis, Johnny Abbas, every damn Calais in the Republic would go in a frenzy. They'd burn Mocha, my home, to cinders. Imagine what they did to June 14th, but for months, in every city, to every family. No. General Diaz looked up from the rifle he was inspecting me and Antonio's eyes. We'll need to give Pupo Roman and the military time to take control instead. If we assassinate Trujillo in a remote location, Amadito chimed in. In the evening, he always heads to San Cristobal for sex. Probably has dragged half the capital's women there by now. There's barely anyone on the road then. The lieutenant turned to Simon and Barrett. We need one hell of a car to chase him down. Tony and Barrett nodded slowly. Alright, so we're already 1 brigade over. Alright, we'll infiltrate some agents. Contact dissidents and exiles. Our relations are good. I imagine they're probably as good as they're gonna get. I can move this around, I just noticed. That's potentially useful. President Lopez Mateos sat alone, enjoying a rare instance of solitude. Being president meant that he spent all day every day surrounded by advisors, lobbyists, and other individuals who sought to both give counsel and influence in his decision-making. The moment was a fleeting opportunity to ignore the duties of his office for a small length of time and just relax. And as he allowed his mind to wander, his attention was brought back up to a looming decision he had to make for the Canadian leg of a North American trip. Lopez Mateos and his entourage were expected to visit Ottawa, the seat of the Canadian government, to meet with Canadian counterparts. He had decided to take a brief detour to Vancouver. A myriad of opportunities would present itself. The city was Canada's gateway to the Pacific Ocean. It was chafing under OFN rules that restricted trade with a spear. Businesses there would jump at the chance to use Mexico as an intermediary to reach the Japanese market. However, there were other factors to consider. Offering Canadians a backdoor of a spear wouldn't be popular for the Americans, and the whole point of his tour was to win them over. Was detouring from his primary objective for a chance at a few extra Canadian dollars really worth it? Well, that's a question, isn't it? And we can only answer that next time. I'm going to leave the stream here. Or, not the stream. The video here. Maybe the stream, though. I don't know yet. But thanks always for watching, gang. Like this video if you like it. Dislike if you didn't. Leaving comments and feedback down in the comments section below. I read all comments I get, and I appreciate any and all feedback you may have for me. Check out my various links in the description box below. And I will see you all in the next time. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.